I love the rockin' intro, man. That's probably a top 2 for me. But man, that intro slaps. But welcome everybody. It is Weekly Whiskey on Tuesday. It is Tuesday night, which means that we have some great weekly whiskey content for you tonight. John, how you doing?
I'm doing good, my man. It's good to see you. Happy Tuesday, folks. I got the banner right this time.
Hell yeah.
That's nice. It's always good when things line up and I don't totally screw it up in the beginning of the show.
To be fair, I mean, we don't stream that often on Mondays. Today kind of felt like Wednesday because we were on last
Monday
night, we
should
were
be
on last
banned.
Monday.
Sick of Monday.
Unreal. But if you are drinking something awesome, go ahead and let us know down in the chat. I personally have
A
something.
big shocker here is Revered is already
it's-
throwing up turkeys in the chat. I love it.
I got some
A
turkey
little
myself.
revival. A little revival.
Yeah,
I
revival.
like that.
It's one of my. It's getting up there on It's getting up there on my list of the Master's Keep. But yeah, so if you're drinking something awesome, drop it down in the chat to hit you with the quick Our Bourbon Barrel news for this week. Crazy stuff. We have a Nulu barrel probably going to be on sale by the end of this week. That is a 5-year MGP.
Okay.
What up?
I just wanted the stats on the Nulu because I forgot it personally. So I wanted to know selfishly what they were.
Yeah, 5-year MGP, barrel proof bourbon, 21% rye mash bill, which is kind of nice to offset. We've done a lot of 36 recently, and this should be about $55 out the door. So nice and smooth. Also picked a new Jack Daniels, which is super fun. And we've got a lot of great stuff on the way. I think we're picking, starting next week, we pick 15 barrels in 9 days. So stay tuned on the barrel front. This week is a little bit light, but next week is going to be real heavy. So
just a couple barrels. It's not that heavy.
One or two. But yeah, I think our light day is doing 2 barrels and our heavy day is doing like 3 or 4, like distilleries, and we'll probably take multiples. So things could get kind of out of hand.
Yeah, or just right, depending how you look at it.
I'm hoping for a chef kiss trip, but we aren't here to talk about barrels all night long. We have an awesome guest tonight, which I'm super pumped about. I know our audience is super pumped about. John, I know you're pumped for it too. So who are we talking to tonight?
Absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight with our buddy Bo Garrett. He's going to come in here and explain his kind of his career path from being on tour on the road to being in the Rick House with Little Wild Turkey. So let's give a warm welcome here to Bo. Bo, how are you, sir?
What's going on, fellas?
Howdy.
Hello.
Very excited. We
Man,
got a couple more folks jumping into the chat saying hi here. Oh, there's our buddy DJ drinking a little Russell Reserve 6-year rye. Like that. Yeah. Like those quite a bit. So let's just dive right in here, Bo, and do a quick background on where you're coming from, and give us a maybe the Nickel Tour version of from the road to the Rick House. But by all means, if you have like interesting stories in there that you're gonna throw in, please do.
Well, it's really not such a far stretch as it might sound when you first hear it. Me being in the bourbon world now, as opposed to coming off the road with the band, I grew up in the mountains of eastern Kentucky. So I am a true hillbilly. But my grandfather was a moonshiner. So the process to pull alcohol from the water was not foreign to me. I'm going to leave it at that.
Fair enough.
But all of the science behind it, things like that, I didn't know. Now, as far as getting to bourbon from music, that happened actually with a completely different distillery. Montgomery Gentry became kind of a big deal. We were having some success, quite a few hit songs, and it got to the attention of a guy I'm sure you've heard of by the name of Booker Noe.
And we've heard of that guy.
Yeah, I thought maybe you
only
probably
in passing,
had.
though.
Yeah, he's kind of a big deal in Kentucky. But anyway, he wanted to work with Montgomery Gentry. He had Jim Beam reach out to us, so they sponsored us for probably out of 20 some years, probably 19 or 20 of them.
Wow.
So that's how that all got started. And I got to know Fred, and Fred is a dear, dear friend of mine to this day. And we were buddies. And at that point in time, it's kind of weird now because Fred is a huge deal in the bourbon world, but when Booker was he was kind of just Booker's boy when we first met. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
So like, the focus was on Booker.
Yeah.
I got to know Fred really well. Was at Fred's house occasionally, and one time I was over there for a dinner, and there was a reveal of some sort for some bottle. I can't remember which bottle it was they were revealing, but anyway, lo and behold, sitting right behind me was Jimmy Russell. So when I came off the road, I was kind of getting in a pretty dark spot because it's no secret that, we lost Troy Gentry in a helicopter crash, and Troy was one of the best friends I ever had. So I got in a kind of dark spot. My wife found out they were looking for a tour guide at Wild Turkey. I went over there as a retirement thing, just for something to do, and here I am working full time again.
No kidding. So that was like just an immediate downshift. You thought you were just going to be kind of cruising along, and then here you are diving in all the way into the Wild Turkey pool.
Had no idea that it was going to. I mean, I knew I loved bourbon and had a certain passion for it, but I did not realize that getting into it was going to just like suck me completely into it. And now there's no way out. I'm here.
Right. So what were some of those early things that kind of really pulled you in? Like, what were you doing in your first, maybe like, what was sort of like your first experience at Turkey? Like, you get in there and you're coming off the road, you're transitioning out. Like you said, it was kind of a tough time for you. And here you are surrounded by barrels of whiskey and the Russell boys. And like, what is going on in your mind at that point?
Well, I don't know that I even at first dawned on me that I wanted it as much as I did. I went there as a tour guide, just to do tour guide stuff. That's all I was doing, nothing else. So basically I got there, got the job. They gave me a script. I kind of went over the script, and I've always colored outside the lines a little bit my whole life. So, but there was
a little bit of that moonshiner background.
There was a script involved, and basically I was there about a week, I think it was, and the lady that was training me to do the tour guide stuff was like, "You're good to go. Go ahead and do your own." And I just kept getting deeper and wanting to know more and wanting to figure out more and learn more and be more involved. And that just kind of, I was more passionate about it than I knew I was until I got there and started working in it.
Really kind of found yourself in it. And
yeah.
Just, so you started out doing tours. Did you kind of expand from that? And what was the crossover there into what you're doing now?
That's doing stuff like what the brand builder type stuff is more of a recent thing. So, I mean, you might show up at Wild Turkey one day, I might be behind the bar. You might show up another day, I'll be behind the register. You might show up one day and I'll just be roaming around somewhere talking to people. It kind of just depends on the particular day, what it is I'm actually doing. And then obviously still doing the guide experience stuff too. And then these things, these are starting to pop up a little bit now, and doing more of these. And this is, I mean, from where I come from my last gig, this is right in my wheelhouse, man.
To hang out a little bit.
Yeah. So it's like both worlds have come together all of a sudden.
Yeah, sure. I think that's super cool. I'm kind of curious too. So I know, how are tours currently working with COVID at Wild Turkey? And I know things are probably about to open up, but as someone who's going to be in Kentucky next week, I'm curious to hear what life at the distillery is like right now.
Yeah. Right now it's more of a virtual setting. And when I say that, we've been referring to it more as a virtual experience. We still cover the history, the process, the product, and things like that. But it's done from the angel's view in a virtual screen type setting. As far as showing you around the distillery, we do that with a screen as opposed to actually walking up on all this stuff.
Okay.
And then you end with your tasting like you would at any other tour that we would give.
Very nice.
Well, I want to take a step back a little bit and just talk music. I mean, I know that I asked you for the Nickel Tour earlier, but now I'm kind of interested in diving a little bit deeper into maybe your musical history. And I mean, what got you into it? I mean, was it always playing guitar? Was there other stuff involved in that path for you? And if maybe you could just kind of peel back a few layers for us there and show us what's behind the curtain.
Sure. My family, pretty much everybody in my family played something or sang a little bit, or every Sunday was after church was on the front porch and bluegrass music going, and everybody was playing. Well, what originally got me wanting to play music was I wanted to be a part of that too when I was a kid. So I started learning some stuff on the acoustic, but then again, I started out wanting to be just a part of that Sunday experience with the family and play music with everybody else. And then I realized I had a passion for it. I was lucky enough that the God-given gift was there. Then I started discovering other music and that's what I wanted to do. And I've said this before in other things like this that I've done when people have asked me this kind of question. I go by that old Gene Simmons theory. Gene Simmons said any successful musician who told you he didn't start on some level because of girls is lying to you. So, here I was, a kid from a holler. We didn't have money, wasn't Mr. Popular, wasn't going to win any, homecoming queen or king thing or nothing like that. So guitar makes you a little more popular.
Certainly.
It sure do.
I mean, look at Mick Jagger. I mean, he's not going to win any beauty contest either. He's a pretty popular dude.
I think that's a pretty good way to put that.
Yeah,
that's how I got started.
Okay, very cool.
Kind of discovered Leonard Skinner and Hank Williams Jr. And man, it was game on at that point.
All
so
right.
the Southern rock and outlaw country style, was that always kind of where you were at with it?
Absolutely. It goes back again to that coloring outside the lines. Where I came from, that little coal mining family that I was in, we didn't have anything and nobody was trying to help us. We said you raised what you ate. I wore hand-me-down clothes. So I was, like you can become pretty big on I'm my own person and I'll take care of me. And that's where those guys appealed to me because that's the thing they were singing about, was that kind of a scenario. So that really appealed to me a lot. Not to mention the fact that guitars were really cool too. But.
Yeah, absolutely. The old Cadillac style and things like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty tough to bat an eye at that. Do you see any like crossover to younger musicians or folks from a newer generation that sort of still kind of bring that through? Like as you're talking about, like it makes me think of like Tyler Childers and some of these other guys that are coming up now, and they've got sort of like playing along that same vein.
Exactly.
And makes me curious as to like where your musical interests are, with current stuff that's coming around.
Well, with current stuff, I mean, I've got a lot of friends in the business still who I just love to death, and it wouldn't matter what they put out, I'd still love them to death. But
sure,
Tyler's one of those people that sticks out to me about not following the rules. Do it your own way. Do what you're passionate about rather than what they tell you should be singing.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then, of course, Stapleton.
That dude kills it.
Weirdest story about Chris Stapleton was he's from Eastern Kentucky as well, like 30 minutes from where I'm from. I used to be in a band with his first cousin. When Chris was a 13-year-old kid, he idolized his cousin. He used to come and see us play all the time at like the VFWs and places like that when he was a teenager. And this little nerdy looking guy didn't have a clue what that was going to be.
Man.
Yeah. I remember when he moved to Nashville, his cousin told me, hey, Chris moved to Nashville to write songs. You need to write with him down there sometime. I was like, I'd love to. Boy, I wish I'd followed up on that.
Yeah, I bet so. Man, he's absolutely killing it now. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome stuff. I really, as you were mentioning some of your childhood stuff, like the first thing that kind of popped into my mind was just lyrics from some Tyler songs, and the stuff that he's put together really kind of stood out to me as I don't know, just seemed like a pretty big parallel there. There was something else here that came up in the chat that David had asked there. wanted to know if you tasted the
Oh.
new Master's Keep or the Russell's Reserve 13 year that's just about to come out. And I know that he's going to ask this stuff, but I still got
Well, you don't know if you don't ask, but no, I have not. I can say that. So no,
Oh man.
Oh yeah, Sturgill Simpson. That's right. Another great one.
Sturgill's another one.
Recent. One of the
And
newer
both those guys
outlaw
are Kentucky boys too.
Yep.
So seems to be in the water around here. And there's more bourbon in the water in Kentucky.
Yeah, that's true. More and more of it every year, it seems like.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
Let's see, there was another thing that came through the chat here a minute ago. I was going to try to grab it. I think I lost it in the.
It's been moving right along. So, just as someone who used to play a lot of guitar, do you have a preferred manufacturer style? What is like? What is your home sweet home design? What are you reaching for most often to play lately, Bo?
As far as a guitar, or as far as type of music?
Yeah. Sorry. Oh no, I meant guitar wise.
Guitar wise, okay. Over the last couple of years, I've been playing my old Strat a lot. That I've had for so many years. I started playing it again. That's the whole name for the Instagram and all of that, was that I was kind of like the Firebird was my thing.
Okay.
Again, that goes back to Skinner, seeing one of those guys playing a Firebird. Alan Collins was playing a Firebird. I said, I want to do that. And we were lucky enough to get a Gibson endorsement deal. And so the rest is history on me playing the Firebird. But it's a really heavy guitar, the one I have.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where it was causing me a neck. I lost the feeling in my left arm. And, for a guitar player, that's not a good thing.
No, that's
so. Yeah, that's bad news. So
the chiropractor that with Wild Turkey.
Oh no. No, that wouldn't have helped me at all. Tried that, didn't work. But the Firebird was so heavy. Chiropractor told me, neck and shoulder problem. I play a lot of guitar, so I started playing the Strat again.
Okay, very cool.
Now I've got them across the spectrum. I've got Les Paul, SG, Strat, Tele.
Sure.
Have you got a bigger bourbon collection or a bigger guitar collection?
Bourbon.
I feel like that's probably saying something.
That's
as weird as it sounds, it's actually probably the most cost efficient way to do that too. If you were guitars versus bourbon, I think the bourbon's probably the more value, which is something you can't say often. Like, oh yeah, my bourbon collection is value efficient, but
yeah,
compared to
I never
guitars,
was really a huge guitar collector. That was another thing. So I mean, I've got quite a few, but I never was really what I would call a collector.
Okay.
I know there's guys out there. I've met some guys. Like I grew up. I was a young man in the 80s, so the hair bands of the 80s were a huge deal, and that's where the guitar was at for me during the 80s, was with those guys. And I was a big Cinderella fan, and I got to meet Tom Kiefer and hang out with him for a while. And we talked guitars. He's a collector. He actually reached out to see if he could come over to our dressing room to look at my Firebird.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we kind of started talking there. And then you take somebody like Keith Urban, who you see playing a different guitar all the time.
Yeah.
He's got this one Tele that's got the neck pickup out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's played, this is like his go-to guitar. You see him with it all the time. We were touring with him. And I finally asked him backstage one day, he and I were standing back talking guitar. And I was like, why'd you take the neck pickup out of that Tele? I said, are you getting is it more of a bell tone that you get out of it? Why did you take that pickup out? And Keith, in that awesome Australian accent, and he goes, I just realized I never played that pickup, so I took it out.
No kidding. Something that simple.
Yeah, there was no function to it whatsoever. He just decided, I never used that pickup, so I'm going to take it out of my guitar. And that's why it's missing.
It doesn't not make sense, I guess, when you think about it.
I mean, I've got a lot of them that I don't use the pickup on, but I don't take the pickups out. I don't know. That's just, I thought that was an interesting take on that.
That is really interesting.
Huh. That is nuts. Do you have like a favorite venue that you ever played at, or like maybe a show or two that just kind of really stands out? Like, I'm looking for a couple war stories here, I guess.
Favorite venue? I don't know, man. I mean,
it's crazy to ask after, like you said, a career in the realm of 20 years with Montgomery Gentry. But if there's something in there that, like, some memorable moments, if you want to tie those in for us.
headlining some of those. It's not a particular one, but headlining those big country music festivals.
Okay.
That's a pretty good feeling when you go out there and you realize that there's, 60,000 people and you're headlining that show. That's a pretty cool feeling.
And they all know the words of the song that you're playing. That must be an insane feeling, man.
It's pretty cool. Or the football stadiums when we did a stadium tour with 2 stadium tours with Kenny Chesney.
Oh, fun. Okay.
And to walk out into a football stadium and see that entire thing is full will blow your mind when you walk on stage. You just feel like you're like that big. Yeah.
Man.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. So, I mean, you've hung out with, played with, and talked guitars with some of the absolute legends in the music category. Then you shuffle over to Wild Turkey, and you're hanging out with the likes of Eddie and Jimmy Russell, who are icons in their own right in the whiskey category. What's that transition like to you? And what are like some of your early interactions and stuff with Eddie and Jimmy Russell, and just kind of like being on scene there at Turkey? What was sort of the culture shock or the shift that you had to make there?
I think for me, like I said, I met Jimmy, so I had already knew Jimmy. I had I met Eddie before I got to the distillery? I don't think I had. But I've gotten to know Eddie really well over the last few years, and just a great dude. And I've always said Eddie's one of those guys that he's that old school master distiller that rather make whiskey than a personal appearance somewhere. You got to look for Eddie to find him over there. Jimmy, you don't have to look for. He's easy to find. Seeing the firsthand, I started to see it some on the road toward the end there when we were still working with Beam and Fred would come out. Of course, this was after Booker and Fred had taken over, and you could see then it's like, whoa, these guys they're kind of a big deal. But that first day I saw Jimmy sitting at his chair in front of that glass window there at the visitor center, and a line of people all the way across the visitor center just to get Jimmy to sign a bottle and take a picture with him. I was like, all right, man, this dude's a rock star.
There's something to this, yeah.
Yeah, he'll say I'm just Jimmy, but that's not just. I know a lot of Jimmys, and ain't none of them can do that.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good way to look at it, man. That's absolutely crazy too. So, tying back into what you've been doing here recently at Turkey, some of the stuff that you've been putting out, the distillery map and stuff, the Rickhouse maps. Was that a Bo original? Is that something that you just kind of crafted up that you wanted to throw together, or what's give us a little like a 5 mile high view of that?
Inspiration for that came actually from David Revered. Was where the inspiration for that. Yeah, that's where the inspiration came from, and he asked me a question, something about. I think he'd had a bottle or something. He was trying to figure out where the Rickhouse was, and. When we got together on it and I put the first map together, he was kind of like, you should do this for the other properties too. People love it. And so then I went to work and started doing the other 2 properties as well so people could have an idea where all those rickhouses sat. I thought it was funny that now we have them all the way up to Z, but when I Google mapped in order to get a screenshot to put the warehouse, we build them faster than Google was updating. So there was like 3. Yeah. I just put turkeys there. There was 3 rickhouses right here, I promise. So
yeah, it's been a fun journey to sort of follow along that and live vicariously through your Turkey rickhouse tour that you've been giving us on there. I really dig that.
The rickhouse is my favorite spot, man. I love it in there. I don't know if it's the smell, the whole ambiance of the whole building is just. I just love those places.
Do you have a favorite and least favorite rickhouse for one reason, whether it's whiskey or otherwise? I'm curious if does a certain rickhouse feel like home?
Yeah, on property, Tyrone A. That's the one we take people into. But the history behind that rickhouse for me, it dates all the way back to 1894. You're looking at that being the first rickhouse that a Jimmy Russell would have ever walked into.
Yeah, so that's something to think about.
Yeah, so that and I didn't think of that on my own. I was actually leading a group of people through that rickhouse one day, and there was a lady said, so this was built in 1894. I was like, yeah. He said, so this is the first rick house that Jimmy Russell ever walked into. I was like, holy cow, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as my least favorite, there's a story behind why, but it would probably be E over at Camp Nelson.
Okay.
And it's because I almost put myself in the hospital over there when I was helping with barrel inventories.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to A, and most all of on Tyrone, the hallway goes like this, and you can step right out onto the walkways, the catwalks between the barrels.
Oh boy.
Well, they're like this over at E at Camp Nelson. So I'm in there just bang, 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 bang with my little clicker, inventorying those barrels. And on Tyrone, I just walk out into the ramp and go back down the next stop. Well, there's cross beams beside the hallway there. So I go to step out of that rick right on top of the head. I lunged into that crossbeam with the top of my head. So I was like, the little gun that I was using to click barrels fell 7 floors. It was.
Yeah, that's not
man, I couldn't see anything for about 5 minutes. It was. So that's why it's not my favorite. Not there's anything bad going on with the brick house. It's just like I got bad memories of that one.
You left a little blood there. I get it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a little piece of bow still hanging out.
Yeah, there is. Had a lump on my head for like 4 days after that.
Oh man.
Damn.
Yeah. But that's probably why. Now I do again, though, A over at Camp Nelson is another one that I absolutely love. You walk in and see that old scale sitting over there to the left where they used to weigh barrels. It's like, again, you're going back in time.
Yeah, another chunk of history.
Yeah. So those are probably my favorites.
Okay. That's cool. I always think about it because I was at Wilderness Trail not too long ago and in the rick house, and one of the guys was like, this is my favorite. Like, it just feels like home. And I love asking people like which rick house, on these properties that have tons and tons of rick houses, like, if you're going to that rick house that day and you're feeling good about it, I always love to see which one it is.
Yeah. Where do you love to be?
Yeah, it's weird. They all built pretty much the same way, but they do seem to have a character of their own. Every one of them seems to have something that gives it its own character in some way.
Very cool. Okay. Good to know. That's one for the personal record.
Yeah. Like C on property there at Tyrone. If you go into warehouse C, that thing is long, man. It looks like a football field, when you look down the hallway in that thing.
How many barrels are resting at sea?
I don't know. I know the different rick houses are going to hold different numbers, of course. You got them from 20,000 all the way to 50.
Okay.
Usually the ones that hold 20 they're going to average probably around 16 or a little more because you're constantly adding and subtracting barrels. So
sure.
You really don't want to be at full capacity in a rick house. That means somebody's not buying bourbon.
Yeah, it means it's not going out, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Awesome. But we're starting to come up here on the end of our time. I want to thank you again for coming on and chatting with us, sharing your stories, and just kind of sharing with our audience your perspective on the music industry and the whiskey industry as well. Love to give you a second here to just kind of give everybody a shout out for your Instagram so they can catch up with some of these wild turkey maps that you're throwing on there and just sort of see the day-to-day stuff that you're doing. And again, just thank you for coming on the show. Oh,
thank you guys for having me, man. The whiskey tube, I call it that. I don't know if that's an actual thing or not.
I like that.
But the whiskey tube is kind of it's become a big deal for the business. I mean, during the pandemic and the way things have been, people couldn't go out and buy cocktails and things like that. So, to actually see an increase in sales, that means people are buying bottles. So people like yourselves and others that are helping people get more information about bottles that they might want. That's a great thing. We need those bottle buyers, man. We love them.
John and I have definitely bought probably, I don't know, 1 or 2 bottles of turkey, maybe.
Just a couple.
2.
Just a couple.
I feel you there.
But before we let you go, what's your favorite turkey expression if you have one?
It seems like everyone's right for a different situation. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see that. That's why I've got hundreds of bottles of bourbon.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll answer that the same way Jimmy would answer that. I heard Jimmy answer this way, and this is why I'm going to use to quote Jimmy Russell. He asked a gentleman one day who asked him what his favorite wild turkey was. Jimmy said, "Are you married?" The guy said, "Yeah." "Got any kids?" "Yeah." "How many you got?" "Well, I've got 4. Which one of them's your favorite?" So that's the way Jimmy answered
Fair
that
enough.
question. But I reach for the 101 more than anything else because of cocktails. I love it in a cocktail. I love it neat. So I reach for it more often, but I'm a big fan of rare breed. And recently I've become a really big fan of rare breed rye. I mean,
Oh man,
That red breed rye is so good.
oh,
We
it was
love that.
ridiculous. That was off the chart, man. That was a great one.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, they did that one right.
yep, I agree. Totally agree with that.
excellent.
I guess
Well,
it just depends on the day.
I mean,
I'm with you.
rare breed rye is certainly not far from a favorite here. Both John and I have talked about it excessively. John's poured more than a little bit of it on himself.
Yeah, that's
trying
true.
to
That
get
did happen
pouring
one
up
night.
in. Yeah, that's
I
an
wore
expression.
about a third of a bottle of it accidentally one night.
Oh no.
Uh,
I don't know how you handle that. I would.
expletives
Just
are
ring out
involved.
the blaze.
Oh
it
yeah,
was
I'm
definitely
sure.
flared
Yeah,
up.
those would have been the first thing to happen. Yeah, I guarantee that.
Yeah, there was
Uh,
a couple of those.
We can't keep it on the shelves, man. Every time we
I mean,
get
that's a good
shipment-
problem to have on your side, but geez, it's
Mhm.
tough for us who always like to have a bottle and a half going at the same time.
Yeah, and Eddie wants everybody to taste everything they make. So it's hard when you can't keep it in there for everybody to get some of that.
Totally.
I totally agree. Yeah, especially, I mean, I bought, I think, probably 10 bottles last year and shipped 8 of them out. Like it's, you feel good getting it to other parts of the country, but I know that all those people are like, I would love it if it, came here, and people went crazy. But yeah, that rare breed rye is special stuff. That's probably my favorite current like turkey expression that exists.
Yeah.
Between that and the WB Saffel, I could be doing real good.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know where the original nucleus of that idea came from, but boy, it was a great one.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much again, Bo. It has been awesome to have you. If you're looking for more from Bo, find him at Firebird Bo on Twitter and Instagram. If you're looking for more from John, you can find him at the Bourbon Finder, both on Instagram and on the web. He has a lot of great reviews. He's doing lots of great articles. We've talked about cherries more than once in the past, which is fun. And if you're looking for more from me, I'm Jay from Whiskey Raiders. We are the Rotten Tomatoes of whiskey. We cover articles, news, and breaking releases, as well as bottle reviews. But Bo, this has been an awesome time. It's been a long time coming. We're super thrilled that we got to spend the night with you, and thank you again for your time.
Man, I appreciate you guys asking me. Anytime talk about turkey, spread word.
Beautiful. Well, we'll
Absolutely,
definitely have you up again. This has been a great time. In the meantime, cheers, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers, guys.